In this video, we're going to look at inequalities, and specifically, why do we have to flip the inequality symbol when we multiply or divide by a negative number? Let's first have a discussion of opposites. The opposite of a -1 is a +1. The opposite of a +2 is a -2. And the opposite of a greater than symbol is a less than symbol. So let's keep that in mind as we look at an inequality. So I have the inequality, x is less than 5. So if I take the opposite of x, it would be -x, and the opposite of a less than symbol would be a greater than symbol, and the opposite of 5 would be -5. So the opposite of x is less than 5 is -x is greater than -5. Okay, now let's look at the inequality that resulted when I took the opposites of my variable, my inequality symbol, and my constant. And I now have a negative variable, which I can't have in my inequality or in my solution. So one way I can get rid of a negative sign in algebra is to multiply the whole thing by a -1, because we know a -1 times a -1 will equal a +1. So that would turn my -1x into a +x when I multiply by a -1. So I'm going to multiply -1 times -x, which will give me a +x. And multiplying a -1 times the symbol effectively says take its opposite, which would turn my greater than symbol into a less than symbol. And then -1 times -5 would give me a +5. And notice in both situations what happened when I either took the opposite or I multiplied by a negative. My resulting solution or equation was the opposite of the original. And that's why we actually flip the sign in algebra. It's really a shortcut to us actually thinking or doing what we just did above. Hope that helps you understand why we flip an inequality when we multiply or divide by a negative.